Hello and welcome to the October 30th edition of the Bubb Report. Last week, Grenada commemorated the events surrounding the 1983 invasion of the island by American and Caribbean forces as part of a bid to restore democratic rule to the island following the violent demise of the Grenada Revolution 6 days earlier. The military intervention formed part of a geopolitical mission by the United States to reduce the influence of Soviet Russia in the Western Hemisphere.
On Sunday, October 23rd, the United States received an urgent formal request from the 5 member nations of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States to assist in a joint effort to restore order and democracy on the island of Grenada. We have taken this decisive action for 3 reasons. First, and overriding importance, to protect innocent lives, including up to 1,000 Americans whose personal safety is, of course, my paramount concern. Second, to forestall further chaos. And third, to assist in the restoration of conditions of law and order and of governmental institutions to the island of Grenada, where a brutal group of leftist thugs violently seized power, killing the Prime Minister, 3 cabinet members, 2 labor leaders, and other civilians, including children.
I appreciate having you all around.
It wasn't for the Americans. We would have been having a hard time in Grenada.
Americans more or less had stopped them from coming in because they wanted the Grenadians to be free from communism and socialism.
The invasion very good. You God has sent you all, you know.
Grenadians are divided about the significance of the October 25th holiday. On the one hand, some say the holiday is unwarranted and is symbolic of American imperialism. On the other hand, people such as those imprisoned by the People's Revolutionary Government view the October 25th holiday as Liberation Day, since it signaled the end of their unconstitutional and illegal incarceration in prison. This week, we discussed the events surrounding October 25th, 1983, from a former Revolutionary-era detainee. Last week on October 25th, the national community in Grenada celebrated the Thanksgiving holiday to commemorate the American military invasion of Grenada. While Maurice Bishop and progressive sympathizers view this holiday through the lens of imperialist overreach, those who were unconstitutionally and illegally imprisoned and tortured at the Richmond Hill Prison and in other locations, such as Hopevale, view this holiday differently. In fact, these detainees, such as the late Leslie Pear and Lloyd Noel, former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas, former politician Winston White, Jerry Romaine, and other sympathizers of the Gary regime, are grateful for the October 25th holiday. Political scientist and retired Professor Ken Budo, writing about the undemocratic excesses of the Grenada Revolution in 1983, said, quote, "During the period of rule, there was no attempt to legitimize their position through elections. Presumably, the new constitution would have been the forerunner to national elections. The government faced much criticism from within the region and internationally as a consequence. Dissent was more muted at home. Many would argue that this was a consequence of the intimidating presence of the People's Revolutionary Army. Practically as well, leaders of dissent were probably all in jail. There were about 100 political detainees by October 1983. Few had been charged with crimes, and even fewer had gone to trial," unquote. The Bubb Report is now joined by one of those political detainees who has a different view of the Grenada Revolution and a different view of October 25th. We welcome our first guest for this week's program. Mr. Philip, welcome to the Bubb Report.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. I'm very happy to give my side of the story.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Philip, tell us about the day you were arrested by the People's Revolutionary Government. Do you remember the circumstances that led to your arrest, sir?
Well, up to now, I'm still trying to find out.
Mm-hmm.
On 15th of October 1979, I was home with my mom, and about 5:30, I heard knocking on my door. Come out with your hand in the air. I came outside and I saw the PRA. They say, you're going with us. Me alone. When they brought me to the church, I saw Winston White and a few others. And as far as they start going down, you had to see Malcolm and Twine. Take one down there. And we went down and was straight to Richmond Hill Prison. We arrived in the prison about 7:38. 7:30 to 8 o'clock that morning. I was inside there, just the names. Stanley Cyrus, Rasta Nandang, and many others who I never see before. I didn't even know these people. And I wondered what were we there for. Kenny Lalsin, me and Kenny Lalsin and others, his James, quite a few of us. They had a special place prepared for us in Sea Landing. They brought us in that part of the jail. And everybody was asking, what were we doing here? Mm-hmm. By 12 o'clock news, we heard on the radio, in the market, the whole 15 counter-revolutionary people trying to overthrow the government of the People's Revolutionary Government. Mm-hmm. And they asking what to do with them. I mean, for you to sit down in prison and hear people say, kill them, hang them. One person who said, give them a fair trial. Mm-hmm. And the prison officers, everybody was in shock because everybody came different time from different places. How could you say they meet us going on with arms and ammunition? Nobody asked, where is the arms? Where is the ammunition? What happened? And there you had me inside it for 3 years, 2 months, and 1 day. My mother died. I was not even able to see her grave, even to go. I'm in Grenada, and my mother died. Mm-hmm. And many other mothers. I saw men die in jail. And all you hear, all the good things about the Morris Bishop and the revolution was this and that, the other and thing. Mm-hmm. We were never charged. I was able to be with people like Dr. Artway, Dr. Japal, and enough men, Tillman Thomas, like Noel Leslie Pierre. Mm-hmm.
So tell us, you were arrested there in October 79. What was your relationship with the Gary regime, with the regime of former Prime Minister at the time, Sir Eric Matthew Gary?
Well, I was a police before. I was a police officer. And I'm from Montreal. That was the only reason I could suspect, because they make sure that every house in Montreal, somebody from a house in Montreal was in prison. Even murdered. The Muslim boys and them murdered in front of the family. Once you're from Montreal, you're going to jail. No charge.
Yeah, so is it a case that, because of course the other side would say that they arrested people who were affiliated with the Mongoose gang, they were arrested people who were affiliated with the Green Beast and Gary's secret police agents. What do you say to that argument? Were you, sir, a part of any of those organizations, or would you say that you were just part of the rank and file of the Royal Grenada Police Force at the time?
Part of the rank and file of the Royal Grenada Police Force. The real Mongoose gang they're talking about was the militia and the PRA, the secret police. They were the real Mongoose gang. These people created the situation to justify the revolution. If you were there after they start jailing their own people, you will hear all the crimes they committed and blame it on the Mongoose gang, so that nobody would have picked up the guns to fight for Gary, because you hear he was this Obeah man, he killing police. You know, remember Ivy Bishop was missing. Months after, why did they investigate Ivy Bishop? Why didn't they investigate the bishop that was found in the fridge in Palmis? Why didn't they investigate the death of Scatilda Noel, one of their own? Was she died in an accident, or she was killed before and threw over a precipice? You know, those are the things. Who burned GBU, Grenada Broadcasting Unit? We know who. Who burned the Ministry of Agriculture? We know who. Who used to be going and burning down the bookhands so that the estate owners will give them money and blame it on the Mongoose gang and those things on them. They were the real Mongoose gang. Because at least, if them boys do something, they have a trial. Who have no respect. Take a man like Dr. Atwee, Dr. Joppal, and put him in a cell, and I watched Dr. Joppal dying and crying for help. And we ask all big people to please give him a little oxide to breathe. They never did. One little fella who was looking not up to his mind came and put Dr. Joppal outside and stayed with him. He never pointed the gun at him, stayed with him until daylight. And before the next day, they sent him to the prison and they sent him to the hospital. That's why when I came back in the police force, I was able to do the boys club, take people from the mental home and get them back on track, because I understand, you know, not how big you are, but who could really help you. You know.
Yeah. So tell us about. You said a lot of people in the Mount Rich area were arrested by the People's Revolutionary Government. What was it about that particular area of the country? My understanding from academicians and scholars who have studied Grenada, they said that, of course, in Grenada, if you look at Grenada through a particular regional lens, people in the north of the island, like in St. Patrick's, they tend to have a more negative view of the revolution, as opposed to people on the eastern side and on the southern sides of the island. What was it about that part of Grenada that caused the PRG to target you guys?
Because they was afraid of Gary, and in that area was a Gary stronghold. This was the area in which Gary helped people. I remember as a little boy, Gary was teaching us how to eat with knife and fork. Never known today I was eating with prime ministers how to use a knife and fork. You know, we remember Gary. I know what we passed through on the estate, and Gary take the lands from the estate, give it back to the people. People used to walk from 6 to 6. I know about that, my mom. And Gary were able to lift up that people. Take them out from where I saw a lady make 1 month in prison for her daughter picking up 1 coconut. So the people had loved Gary up there, so they want to make sure that nobody get away from Montreal. I tell about John, poor innocent man. He went to the prison. They just picked him up and they brought him to the prison. He remained there. I was right there with him. And he just said, Lord, you see and you knows all things. I am innocent. What have I done? What have I done? And the man just stretched on the bed. And it's a dead man. That's when they get to know that his son was detained in Hopeville and escaped. You know. So Montreal had something to do. They didn't trust anybody in Montreal. For what reason? Them alone know. Because we know Expo 69, Easter Water Parade, we know about the School of Med. We also know when Gary talked about the UFO and they try to say that he trying to make Obeah, we know that he wanted a research center here, what do you call it, researching the UFO. Look, America spending now. I went to school of medicine a while ago. When you look at it, so if people have love Gary, they are right. But the people with the estates and the big fellas and them, they didn't want to. They were able to finance those secret agents of the revolution. Revolution didn't just start in March 79. It marched a long time. Fellas went and trained all the way and come back. They're good on propaganda. You know, very, very good. Make you believe that they create the situation to justify the revolution. So when it comes, nobody pick up no gun. You know, and nobody fight. And with peaceful revolution, they said, then why 3,112 people passed through Richmond Hill Prison as detainees? 3,112 in a little island like Grenada.
Now, talk to us, Leslie, about due process. As you said before, you did not have a right to a lawyer while you were in jail. Neither were you brought to the courts for a hearing during that time. Were you allowed visitors, family members? Could family members come and visit you in jail? Did you get the opportunities to even ask for a lawyer during that time, to ask for legal representation? What kind of communication did the PRG have with you around those issues at that time?
Well, we had two visits a month. Sometimes one, sometimes we don't have, all depends on the state at the time. You know, and you have two letters. They got to read that letter first before they send it out to you, to your family. You imagine that they bring you an orange and an officer named Palmer. You should be cutting that orange to see what's inside it. God knows. You know, the only thing you have to keep you in jail is a detention order, which was signed by no other than Maurice Bishop. And they keep you in jail for that, and you don't know when you're coming out. You know, so you had nobody to represent you. Before any lawyer outside you talk to, this lawyer would end up in Richmond Hill Prison. If somebody going to write something on the newspaper, they will end up in Richmond Hill Prison. And in the country we were saying free Grenada, free Radio Grenada, and everything was free. The only thing that was really free in Grenada was the jail. So when you come out, it's another nightmare. You have to scared. Mm-hmm. And I was a police in 1979, the revolution in St. Paul. I was there. And my biggest gripe were people who you arrest before, bringing people in the station, usually police, you know. And they bring in men and tell you, hold that day for me. Putting people in the cell. Next morning, all policemen afraid to let them go because they're afraid to deem as a counter.
So yeah. Talk to us about March 13th, 1979. Of course, you were a police on the morning of March 13th, 79. I suspect you were stationed at, you said, that the St. Paul's police station. Walk us through that process when you got to the realization that there was an overthrow that was happening in the country.
I slept in Hopeville that night. Me and Godwin Pice City, two drivers, one in, one out. So I have to relieve him. So I left Hopeville that morning early, coming up to relieve Godwin Pice City so he could go home as the driver. Fire in Chublu. So he drove down to Chublu. And they killed him right in his stretch. The man was unarmed. And they killed him there. So when I get there, we heard about it. And we do nothing we could have done. And they came to the station. One car was driven by Mr. Bido, who will become the commissioner after. You know, they take the gun and we stay there. Nothing we could do. Mm-hmm. And then I asked for a transfer from St. Paul's to Union. And on the 12th of October, they called me in Union and said, look, they need to see me at the police station in Central. So I went down to Central. When I reached there, I meet Cosmos Raymond and one named Mason, still around, Mr. John. And they said, look, he coming. So I said, what happened? The man gave me a charge and said to me that I was not in barracks, was absent from barracks, and I caused the sergeant. So I simply asked him if he searched all about for me. He said, yes, I did. And he was nowhere wrong. I said, if I'm nowhere wrong, how could I cause the sergeant? So he said, I don't know, but I would recommend you dismissal to the Commissioner of Police, James Clarkson. So he went, and he come back and he tell me, you dismissed from the Royal Grenada Police Force. So I find that was very fishy. So they gave me my uniform. I went up to Union. I went home Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday morning. I'm in prison. Spent 3 years, 2 months and a day. And I came back out until that God blessed day when the American came. And that's when we actually free.
Yeah. So before we get to that, so stick a pin there about the Americans, because we will get to that shortly. But let us talk about the conditions under which you were held in prison. We have heard stories about detainees being tortured. We've heard stories about just very deplorable conditions at the prison at the time, that a lot of the prisoners were just packed into very small spaces. Could you talk to us about the conditions that you experienced while you were at the Richmond Hill Prison?
Well, whilst I was in the prison, I was in a cell with 5 of us, myself, Kenny Larson, and his James, and a few others. And then all of a sudden, they came and said, there was another coup, and I'm involved in it. I'm in prison. So they took me and Kenny Larson and they brought us down to Terrace with this guy who was interviewing me and asked me about Raviné and the coup. And I said, I don't know anything about that. With the one pants and shirt that we had, they take me and Kenny Larson and they bring us up the fort. And there we were in a little room which used to be the credit union room on the fort.
Which fort is that? Was that Fort George or Fort Frederick?
Fort George.
Okay.
And we were in a room. See, I could remember some of the guys, like me, Kenny Larson, Dr. Japal, Dr. Atwi, Jerry Rumin, Winston de Ravinier. Man, a whole lot of us on one bed. So when you sit down on the bed, you lean back. So we couldn't lie down, everybody sit down on the bed and take a lean and give somebody else stand up and take your waist. And 18 hours gone. No food, not a bath. We inside it, and I remember when Kennedy Budlal came in, and he said, Doctor, how things? Doc say, look, we're going to almost 2 days now, we ain't get nothing to eat, and we never have a shower. And I saw that man's face change. And he went up to the barracks, and the next thing they came back down with some food. Got a shower. And they brought us up again to that little room with all of us in there, and that's where Doc could not breathe. And he was going and called me scales, you know, he dropped again, you know. I said, Doc, what's that? He said, my pulse. I said, how much is it supposed to be? 72. How much it is? He said, 52. And that's when we begged people to put the guy outside, to give him a little breathe outside to survive. Because we inside that place, it's so hot. If I say anybody hit me, they didn't hit me. I know men get blows, I know men Mikey James and all the fellas and them, but me personally, they didn't. And then
So
we
you
have
you heard stories about people being beaten and tortured.
a lot of stories. One named Mikey Mack from Montreach. They shoot that man in his foot, put him down in a drain, cover him right up, and then they brought him down to the fort. And thanks of this woman, Nurse Gittens, take him and bring him into the hospital. They know that. They make that man bring a rocket launcher from Montreach, pass all through players and fall down. You're dead. And he had to do it. You know. I mean, I would like them to speak for themselves. I would like for them to speak for themselves. I don't want to speak for them. But there is so many wrong things that happen in that country, and they try to keep it down. There's plenty heroes outside it. There's plenty people like Ralph Thompson. Ralph Thompson was one of the guys with the loudest mouth. He was in the prison. And when you go to D Landing, you can see people listening to him by Regal Cinema. And they silence him. He died. You know. So everybody know. I mean, the young people, the people want to change the holiday. They was maybe just 2 years old in the revolution. You know. And they never think about the other people. What happened to them? What happened to their parents? How they feel? People cry, people run away. Leave this country and go. My brother had to leave. Everybody gone. My mother died. When I get back in the house to sleep in the night is a problem. Because your vehicle stop, your vehicle coming for you again. The only time that horror's done is when the American came on the 25th of October. This thing done. Because they let me go before. And I had to go back to school, political school and farming. And I had to do it. I have no choice. So
Let us talk, Leslie. Let us talk about October 25th. Obviously, you were detained, so I'm not too sure how much information you were getting about what was happening on the outside in relation to the tensions that existed with the People's Revolutionary Government. But when did you realize that the PRG regime collapsed and that you guys were going to be freed, and your freedom was the result of American and Caribbean invading forces?
No, I was already freed before the intervention.
Oh, you were. So when were you freed precisely?
I freed in 82. Yeah.
Okay.
I was already freed, so, and I ended up going and work with the government on the Montreal farm. And I knew the tension was building up because, and they start teaching us and educating, and I found the way how they was going. Me and the principal were able to talk and said, look, you know what? Something happened. And then we tell our people, do not go down to St. George's. They asked us to go. I said, do not go. We put sick and don't go. And when I heard what happened down there, man, I sing and I dance and I jump for joy. That was the best thing I believe could ever happen to Grenada. And that holiday should remain in place. And there are a lot of people down here who knows they're still living. And Bob, you know, one thing about it is that what hurt me a lot, after all these years, from 1979 to 2022, there are people living here and they know all the truth, where they bury who, where they born who they kill, whatever it is, and they still lying. Imagine that you heard a man talking about, oh, the thief election and that's what caused the revolution and what they did and what they do and all what causes the revolution. Greed for power, that's one, and they wanted to spread their ideology in the Caribbean. That revolution just come like to say, okay, it was Geary. They know Gary was loved by the people, and we have to get him. But we'll make sure we get rid of people like Innocent Belma, and then to break the moral of the police, Harry Bishop went missing. So, and you say get rid of Harry Bishop because he saw the Mongols gang breaking couple on it. Which was worse, the Mongols gang or the PRA? Or the People's Militia? Which was worse? Everyone had a gun.
But Mr. Phillips, some might say that Sir Eric Matthew Gary was no saint, and the revolution would not have happened had it not been for Sir Eric Matthew Gary's excesses in power and the way that he intimidated people. And given the economic state of Grenada at the time, this is of course not to justify the undemocratic takeover of a government, but certainly that is the argument that the other side would make. What do you think about that argument?
They will have to wait. The election wasn't far. If they win they was going to win the election. You couldn't be our opposition leader on the 12th of March, and by the 13th of March, you become the prime minister. You know, nobody ever contests and say, look, that election, can we call the UN because that election was stolen? No, they never do that. They created the situation to justify it. I'm not saying that Gary didn't have some faults. I didn't say that there was some mistake that was made between some people abused power in any way. But the amount of things that we know that they do because they tell us, because they start jailing their own people. When they start jailing their own people, and when a man telling you what he done, and now they didn't trust them now, and they start putting them in jail. Because when they release us now, they start releasing the people who they believe was a threat. We were no threat. They were their own threat. So they start bringing their own people. You know, look at Tillman Thomas Good. And tell me how Tillman Thomas Good look at a counter-revolutionary. Look at when a man even become the prime minister. Look at him. You know, Lightwell, Leslie Pierre. You know, look at businessman like Kenny Lansing. Look at his people. How could we say that this man was counter and Gary was out of way, so we have to get rid of Gary? These people, Gary listened to much people. So he had good policemen who trained with the MI5, so them men was able to get people to infiltrate and go and give Gary news and transfer them fellas. So they make sure that the force was very weak. So they could just walk in. That's all. Nobody pull up a gun, nobody fight, nobody do anything. Why didn't he call the election 2 years after? Why didn't he call the election 3 years after? No way they was going to call the election in that country. No way. Central Committee was going to do it.
So your theory of the case. Recently, we heard the Minister of Culture, Ron Redhead, who incidentally is also the son of Martin Redhead, who was very involved in the Grenada Revolution. They announced October 19th as a public holiday. How do you think that holiday should be celebrated? Certainly, the families of those who died on that day, I'm sure, would welcome that holiday, but that holiday, I believe, should also take into consideration all of the deaths and the tragedies that occurred from the 70s right up to that period. What are your thoughts around the October 19th holiday?
Well, I'm not in for that at all, you know. You know, I think Ron is very young. I mean, and his father, if you look at him, he almost looked like Morris. You know, 2 years old. So, you know, they talk about reconciliation. I would love to reconcile. But I would like people to come out and speak the truth. Ask these people to come out and speak the truth. The truth in history, what really take place. And then we could welcome the holiday. You know, tell us what really take place. All the wrong things, all the fires they burn, all who kill, all what they do. Let us know. So we all forgive. I can forgive you that my mother died and you never let me go and see her. My sister died. Imagine that. They took away every radio and water. And we happened to sneak in a radio. And then somebody told me, look, my sister, we heard the news that my sister died. And I can't cry, I can't say anything. I can't even tell the authority because they want to know how we know that. I had to wait until Russell Butler came from tongue in court. And when he come back up, go and tell the chief, you know, I understand my sister died, you know. And the man pick up the phone in my presence. That man supposed to be almost...
Just lean back, sir. We are not seeing your face. There you go. Much better. Yeah. Go ahead and talk. Yeah. Go ahead.
That man supposed to be a church man. Pick up the phone and telling me he called Lacroix and he called Atway and they don't have that body there. When I know my sister is in Atway. The commissioner of police, which was Mr. Pat McLeish, said to me, boy, I know it is to lose your mother. I'll let you go to the funeral. The day, he said, I don't know anything about that. So when after the intervention, they called us back in the police force, and when I go, I saw the commissioner of police is Mr. McLeish. And I said, not me, I cannot join in front of you. I can't hold a Bible in front of you. You evil. So I went back and walked on the and went back into the where I stayed until I retire. You know, and after I retire, I make sure that I try to educate as much people, young people, as possible. You may hold my record about the police boys club, the lawyer, you know, treat everywhere I go. I was able to do that and make them respect, try to get back some respect that what we lost in 79. So going back to that as a holiday, no, even in this time that they just get into power there, I think that they should hold back a little bit. People are still bleeding, put up a white flag, people are still bleeding because you refresh every memory in the minds of those people who was hurt. Let the history go and show the good, the bad, and the ugly. He was a baby at the time. His father was right up. You know.
Yeah. Mr. Philip, this was very fascinating and interesting. And of course, if you can also direct me to other people who were detainees. I mean, we know the famous ones, Tillman Thomas, Lloyd Noel, Teddy Victor, who also supported the revolution. He was also imprisoned. Winston White, you know, but this is so very important because I certainly believe that all sides of a story need to be told. There is your side, my side, and the truth. So as we go to the next segment of the program, do you have any final closing comments?
Yes. I would like to see some reconciliation, but on all sides. All sides. Get together with all the detainees, you know, and let it get a side of the story. If you had to write a book on both sides. You know, only so. Visit Montreat. So many deaths in Montreat. Remember the guy get bullet right in his leg, fall on the ground in front of his family, and was murdered right in front of his family. You know, he could have been captured. You know, another two were shot cold dead right there. You know, which they could have captured them. You know, and many more. You know, right now my mind is just at the race. You know, my mind's at the race. I seen many men cry inside of that place, lock up. You don't know when you're going. Have to know the time by when the bell rings. Bread, morning and evening. The only time you get piece of meat, it's Christmas Day. You know, that was the only time. So it's hard for all of us, but I came and I went back in the police force and I didn't seek any revenge. I went and see Lester Redhead, he's still my good friend. I went and see Selwyn Strong was in the prison. I went and see Hudson Austin before he died. and tap him on the shoulder, you know, and tell him to take it easy because I know how it is. So show them that I have no feelings against them. Me and enough of them fellas and them are good friends. He was leading all that, but as we still meet high, you know. But I don't like this thing of just Morris, Jacqueline Kerr, and a few of the big elite. Go down to the small ones. Go down to the small ones.
Absolutely. Mr. Philip, it was such a pleasure having you here on the Bubb Report. And we would certainly want to have you back again because we believe you have so much information to share about that period that a lot of young people are not aware of. And we believe a platform such as this avails people of the opportunity to talk about the comprehensive retelling of the stories of the period in the 70s leading up right to 1983. Thank you, Mr. Leslie Phillip.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Viewers and listeners, that was Mr. Leslie Phillip. Leslie Phillip was one of those who was detained during the period of the Grenada Revolution by Maurice Bishop's People's Revolutionary Government. His detention went on from 1979 to 1982, but there were several other hundreds of detainees who were also detained at the Richmond Hill Prison, as well as at a facility in Hopevale in St. George's that details and documents several human rights abuses and violations during that period by the PRG. Your comments on air. So on behalf of the hardworking producers of the Bubb Report, I'm your humble servant, Dr. Kellen Bubb, wishing everyone a pleasant week. Bye-bye.